Hi, educators. Cindy here. I have an insight today that I wanted to share with you as we are working through instructing in COVID and beyond. And we at our site are doing a book study on Better Structured Learning by Fisher and Fry. Many of you are familiar with the gradual release of responsibility work, the I do, we do, you do model. If you're a teacher, you certainly have used that model. And if you're an instructional coach, I'm very certain that you have helped teachers within that model. Interestingly enough, the authors make a very important point that many times the mantra, I do, we do, you do, helps us forget one of the most important pieces of their constructed framework, which is the we do it together. So I have the I do, the we do it together, and then you do. And they go so far as to make this point. When learners experience difficulty and confusion, they need guided instruction, not more modeling. They continue on to say that students need scaffolding in place, and they also need instructions and opportunities to speak jointly in group work so that they are able to consolidate their learning and build new understanding. So this really struck me. I've been in education for quite a while, and I have been currently teaching students how to write equations for proportional situations with, I would say, a modicum of success. This insight had me reflect and think, okay, Cindy, you keep remodeling how to do this. How about you take this insight and be certain that students have an opportunity to discuss the model and to go through and apply the model. So, thinking of how I could do that in COVID, I decided that I would create a guided question for the group that addressed the model. So, for example, what were the key components of the model? Why were certain pieces of the model that I had directly stated important? What were common mistakes that could be made in the model? And then, of course, the application of the model itself. I had students watch a video that was about 7 minutes long, and I want to highlight for us some of the components in that important modeling video. So, of course, it had clear and precise steps that were sequential, explicit instruction, overt language, and parallel examples to the level where students are now. Importantly, the authors emphasize that I need to recap in my model why pieces of my model were important. That struck me. I'm not sure that I always automatically do that. So I made certain that I did it in the video. And then again, I asked them questions precisely about the model and had them apply the model. The results were really, really nice. I went from having what I would consider very few students who were writing the equation correctly in one application to about, I would say 75% of my 130 students are applying writing this equation correctly. Really interesting because the insight is that if students are discussing in groups together, they're exhorting each other to properly use the model. I thought, wow, that is really creative. So I wanted to be sure and share this insight today. If you're an instructional coach for your professional learning communities, this could be a powerful insight to apply. If you are a teacher, absolutely, as it proved for me today, it is an insight that is helpful. And in fact, I'm now going to take some of the misunderstandings from this day and see if we can have a consolidated discussion again tomorrow. We know from John Hattie's visible learning work that doing so, those discussions cause about a 0.88 effect, which is a large effect when I'm trying to influence student outcomes. This insight was helpful to me. I hope it's helpful to you as well, as we are all educating in and beyond COVID.